Hi, I'm James Honeycutt, the president of New Tesla and principal inventor of Purius, the simply elegant USB solution to EM pollution. I'm passionate about solving the problems of electromagnetic pollution and its effect on us and our planet. We live in a virtual sea of EM pollution, most of it from devices we use every day, and a surprising amount from places that we don't expect it, like our automobiles. I invite you to watch this short video presentation featuring my daughter, Erin Axtell. Afterwards, I'll return to explain more about Purius. After surviving cancer twice and then losing my wife to breast cancer, I dedicated my time to finding solutions to the real EM problems that we were facing. As an engineer, I love technology and gadgets, and I don't want to stop using them. But I do want to stop the harm that they're causing to us. I've tried these passive patches and holographic stickers and pendants and wristbands, and frankly, they don't seem to do anything at all. If they work, it must be at such a subtle level that we can't even measure it with our most sensitive electronic equipment. In fact, we did some comparisons in our lab, and you can see the results of these studies and compare it to our own invention with biopulses at simplypurifying.com and the web page that's entitled Interrupting EMR. Also, on simplypurifying.com, if you look at the heading for frequencies, you can read the research paper that discusses how we got to the problem we are today and what some of the solutions are for this. One of the interesting things we discovered was that applying currents at specific frequencies used to be the standard for healing in this country and even in the world until about the 1930s. It was called electromedicine. Nikola Tesla even invented electromedicine instruments, and he acknowledged that any competent electrical engineer could develop equipment to safely apply these currents to the body. but acknowledged that it remained to the physicians to explain how these instruments actually worked, how they affected human physiology. Unfortunately, doctors aren't trained in electrical engineering, and engineers aren't trained in human physiology, so neither could fully explain how these instruments worked, and by the 1930s, they fell out of use. Well, when electrical currents were no longer deemed to be healthful or helpful, then the corollary followed that they must not be harmful either, except in extreme cases like electrocution. So when engineers stopped building these healthy instruments, they stopped worrying about frequencies. And that's where the problem began. Because when they stopped worrying about how these frequencies affected the human body, they started only worrying about using frequencies that were advantageous for a particular design without worrying about how they might affect us. And that's why we've got these problems that we have today. In the 1950s, medical researchers discovered how our internal clock, our circadian rhythm, regulated our body's healing and growth processes. They also discovered that strong electromagnetic fields could interfere with our internal clock, this circadian rhythm that regulates these processes. In the 1950s, there weren't many sources of EM pollution that could really interrupt our body's clock. One of the best examples was receiving an X-ray. For instance, if you got up at 7 a.m. and had an X-ray at 10 a.m., it would reset your clock and your body would think you just woke up. That night, if you went to bed at 10 o'clock at night, your body would think it was only 7 p.m. and you'd have a hard time falling asleep. You probably would have thought it was just a result of anxiety over having to see the doctor and get an X-ray, when in fact it was 3 hours of jet lag that you had received because of the X-ray. So let's fast forward from the 1950s by 60 years to today, and we are surrounded by just a multitude of EM polluters. They're in every facet of our life, and our internal clock is now constantly being bombarded and affected by these signals. What happens then is that it's resetting our clock, and our bodies aren't getting a chance to produce the proteins they need for growth and for healing. I think a good example is a cell phone. There's a lot of controversy about whether a cell phone is going to cause cancer or not. What our research shows is that regardless of whether that may be true, a cell phone can interrupt with your body's internal clock and could interfere with the body's ability to produce the proteins needed to fight off those cells that could become cancer. But it's not just cell phones that are causing the problem. A typical automobile has 100 processors in it, and each of these little computers are all communicating with each other. It's like having hundreds of antennas radiating these signals into our body. Not just cars and cell phones, but computers, laptops, even our wristwatches, even some bank cards have microprocessors in them now. All of these things emitting signals that can affect our body and our rhythm. This is the problem I wanted to solve. Getting to the source of regulating our internal clock and resolving this issue with electromagnetic pollution. I enlisted the help of my father, John Honeycutt, who has over 50 years of real-world experience in electrical engineering. Dad and I spent 10 years and thousands of hours trying and testing our different ideas until we came up with Purius. And we call it PuriusXV for the extensible version because it can work in any environment where USB is found. USB is the standard in wired communications, which means anywhere there's an EM pollution problem, you're probably going to find USB. And PuriusXV is designed to plug into any powered USB port. And when it does so, it begins to scan that host environment, select the right carrier frequency and modulation scheme, and begin sending out a signal to overcome the harmful effects. So it literally doesn't just mask the problem, it turns these unhealthy EM polluters into healthy biopulse emitters. We've launched this project for PuriusXV in order to be able to bring PuriusXV to the world at an affordable price. Our target retail price is under $50, and a single Purius would completely cover an average-sized apartment. 2 of them would cover a medium-sized home. You can use it in your car. We're even working on a small battery device that you can plug it into so you can carry it on yourself if you want to. When the PuriusXV has been plugged into a USB port, and after it's scanned the environment and made the right selection, for the first 30 seconds it transmits a signal that's tunable on an AM radio, so you can actually hear that it's working. You can verify that the PuriusXV is providing the modulated Rife, solfeggio, and Schumann frequencies to provide a healing and healthful environment. PuriusXV is a real solution to the real problem of EM pollution. For as little as $10, you can help us bring this to the world. For $50, you can be one of the beta testers, and you'll be able to receive one of the first versions of the Purius to use in your home or in your automobile. Please help us make PuriusXV an affordable reality. Thank you.